Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi emplanes for US, Quad and Summit of the Future, bilateral meet with President Biden, and much more on the agenda over the next 3 days. Sri Lankans begin voting in a tightly contested presidential election on Saturday, crucial for the island's economic recovery. United Nations Security Council meet over the pager blasts in Lebanon, warns that the violence could escalate into devastating conflagration. Kicking off the sprint to election day, first in-person voting begins for the US presidential contest in some states. Also, Kamala Harris trying to get a second debate with Trump. And India lead by 308 runs at the end of day 2 of the Chepauk Test after Bumrah and company dismissed Bangladesh cheaply. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi embarked on a 3-day visit to the United States of America. Meeting with US President Joe Biden is the first in his agenda on Saturday, during which both leaders will discuss issues of mutual importance as well as issues related to global and regional development. On Saturday, Prime Minister Modi will also take part in the Quad Summit, which will provide him with the opportunity to interact with Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, along with President Biden on pressing global issues, Indo-Pacific, including the situation in Ukraine as well as the Israel-Hamas war. The Prime Minister will participate in the UN Summit of the Future at the UN headquarters in New York on Monday. Before this, on Sunday, he is slated to address a gathering of Indian diaspora in New York's Long Island. In his departure statement, Prime Minister Modi said, I quote, "The Quad Summit has emerged as a key group of the like-minded countries to work for peace, progress and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. Meeting with President Biden will allow to review and identify new pathways to further deepen India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership. Eagerly looking forward to engaging with the Indian diaspora and important American business leaders who are the key stakeholders and provide vibrancy to the unique partnership between the largest and the oldest democracies of the world. The Summit of the Future is an opportunity for the global community to chart the road ahead for betterment of the humanity." All right, Shubhendu Ghosh is joining us from New York. Shubhendu, we've just given a broad outline of the agenda of the Prime Minister in US during his visit. He will be attending the Quad Summit in Delaware, in Wilmington, which is the hometown of President Biden. Now, we know that the US is readying for a change in leadership. Given that, how significant is the Quad Summit this year?
It's hugely significant, Preeti, the Quad Summit. This is the 6th time that the leaders are meeting and 4th time in person. Yes, it is a moment of transition, you could say, for United States, but the issue, agenda and the vision of Quad really is more expansive than a certain change in political leadership. And we also know that Quad has a bipartisan support as far as the United States is concerned. There are many key priorities, and Quad has successfully expanded its scope and its application beyond the immediate security concerns in the region of the Indo-Pacific. It today represents a more holistic 360-degree development partnership between the Quad partner countries, namely India, Japan, Australia and the United States. And the interesting thing about this partnership is that it is not just aimed at the welfare and the empowerment of these 4 countries, but of the entire region. Whether we talk about health infrastructure, whether we talk about infrastructure, whether we talk about financing or emerging technologies, the developments that take place between these Quad partners have the potential to positively impact the entire region. So in that sense, it's a hugely important Quad summit that Prime Minister Modi will be participating. His very first engagement as he reaches United States, and this time over the focus is also going to be agreements in the health sector, particularly the breakthroughs that the Quad leaders are likely to announce in the domain of cancer research and treatment. So those are some of the highlights we're looking forward to.
All right, Shubhendu, the Prime Minister will also be attending the UN Summit of the Future. Help us get more as to what is it that the summit will be focusing on, given the way the world is staring at the geopolitical challenges, be it the war between Russia, Ukraine, or the tensions between Israel and Hamas.
Absolutely, it's a critical period for the world as far as the current geopolitics is concerned. Preeti, you rightly mentioned that the conflicts in different parts of the world, whether Ukraine or in Gaza, have the impact of jeopardizing the development vision of the rest of the world. In that sense, the idea of Summit of the Future has truly come up at a very critical time. The idea is also that a lot of promises of sustainable development, climate mitigation that were made in the past decade have not been met. The manner in which the leaders had agreed to solve the world's problem as far as climate is concerned, as far as technology intervention, sustainable financing, reforms of multilateral institutions were promised, those have not taken shape as they were promised. And therefore, it is an important and the right time for the world leaders to once again come together, take stock of the direction in which current geopolitics is headed in multifaceted area, and do a sort of course correction, if I may use that word, because there still may be time for many catastrophic changes in climate, in conflicts, to be avoided in the years and decades ahead. So the critical juncture that world leaders are meeting, rightfully termed Summit of the Future, because what they decide in this summit is surely going to impact the future generations in a big way.
All right, Shubhendu, you're there in New York. The Prime Minister will also be holding bilateral meetings. The Prime Minister will also be interacting with the Indian diaspora at a community event. Let us get what is, did you capture the nerve of the people there? Are they excited to welcome the Prime Minister? What are you witnessing?
Oh, absolutely. So first, just briefly about the bilaterals. Yes, day one, the bilateral with the US President is going to be a crucial one. United States is one of the biggest trade partners for India, with a bilateral trade volume at around $190 billion. United States also an important source of FDI for India. India has also significantly invested in companies, in avenues in the United States. So in that sense, hugely significant bilateral meeting. The diaspora aspect is also very crucial as far as the meeting of the leadership is concerned. Coming to the mega diaspora program that Prime Minister would be participating in, that would be the event of day two of his visit. This is taking place at Long Island at Nassau Stadium, which is a mega stadium where Prime Minister would be meeting some 15,000 Indian Americans who've come from across approximately 40 American states, and they've all gathered to hear Prime Minister. Speaking to a few of them earlier today, and they said that from the earlier presence that Prime Minister had in the United States, Madison Square, they waited for a long time for Prime Minister to come back to the United States to address the diaspora in a big way once again. So there is a lot of excitement at the Nassau Stadium. There would be cultural performances. A sort of mini India has been created to welcome Prime Minister and celebrate the shared heritage of the Indian Americans. Preeti?
All right, so Prime Minister will be having a packed schedule in the US during his 3-day visit. Thank you so much, Shubhendu, for joining in with those details. And the Summit of the Future will be held on 22nd and 23rd September in the UN General Assembly in New York. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the summit on 23rd of September. The event aims to discuss multilateral solutions for global challenges and will produce an agreed document on the Pact for the Future. DD India's Amritpal Singh reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
United Nations, the apex global body which has often been criticized for failing humanity to address its current problems. The UN is now staging a summit of the future, which has an ambitious agenda to find solutions to the emerging problems, the solutions to problems which may affect humanity in the near future, to evolve a global consensus, a pact for future which solves humanity's problems. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing world leaders on Monday at the Summit of the Future, making a strong case for keeping international commitments on sustainable development, financing for the developing countries, and transforming the global governance architecture to make it more effective and equitable. But the big question is, will world leaders be able to keep their differences aside and find solutions to the problems of the world? But despite the cynicism, it is a welcome step by the UN because, as the Mahatma once said, the future depends on what you do today. With cameraman Sumit Naudyal, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
Addressing the Summit of the Future at the United Nations in presence of the leaders from member countries is one of the major agenda of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi during this visit. India's permanent representative to the UN, P. Harish, explains the importance of this summit and also India's role in helping nations of Global South meet the challenges of the future.
The focus has been, what can we do to reboot the multilateral system, to make it fit for purpose to deliver development to the world's majority. I think with this in mind, the Summit of the Future process had begun, and India actively participated along with all other nations in this process. What can we do to achieve sustainable development goals, have an SDG stimulus so that we can try to reach our Agenda 2030 objectives? What is it we can do more to contribute to achieving our goals on climate change? What is it that we could do in the digital arena to leapfrog development and give a leg up to countries in the Global South so that they can cover the distance that they could not all these years? What more we can do to transforming global governance, to ensuring that the institutions are fit for purpose for this new era? And most importantly, it is about the youth of the world. To provide all the necessities for its people. When India is able to harness science and technology, digital platforms and digital public goods for 1.4 billion people, when India is able to ensure food security, energy security, and develop new paradigms of development, and be a model and make these available to our friends and partners in the Global South, I think that makes a huge impact. And that is the true importance of India. And when Prime Minister comes, I think his message would be the example that he has set India on this development process.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future at its headquarters in New York, one of the pillars of the summit is science and technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a digital global compact to use technology for humanity equitably. Let's listen in to 6-year-old Ranveer Singh Sachdeva, the youngest participant at the UNGA Summit of the Future.
As the United Nations holds the Summit of the Future here at the UN headquarters, one of the pillars of the summit is science and technology and innovation, where the UN will try and achieve a global digital compact to use technology for humanity equitably, to have youth participate in it. I have with me one kid who's not even a youth, he's just a 6-year-old child, Ranveer Sachdeva, who's traveled all the way from Delhi here in New York to participate in the Summit of the Future. He's written a book on AI. Ranveer, thank you very much for speaking to us. First of all, tell us, why are you here?
So I'm here traveling from India to and I'm the world's youngest participant in the Summit of the Future, which is a part of the UN General Assembly. It mainly targets on how youth can impact the AI world for world peace. So I'm here to attend the Summit of the Future.
Okay. You're not even youth technically. You are just a child right now, a 6-year-old child. What grade do you study in?
I'm studying in third grade.
Okay. So how do you think as a child AI affects you or the other children of the world?
So AI affects us in many different ways.
Okay.
I've always said that our generation is born with AI because AI is all around us. Alexa, right from your conversation with Alexa and Siri, to YouTube and Netflix suggesting you more songs and videos you like to watch. It's all AI.
Okay. And I understand you've written a book. What is the name of the book?
Are you born with AI?
Okay. And you say you are born with AI?
Yeah. Because, it's all around us.
Okay, great. So as Ranveer Sachdeva says, AI is all around us, but more importantly, he's here as the youngest participant here in the Summit of the Future. Well, if this is the future, then it looks bright. With cameraman Sumit Naudiyal, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India at the UN headquarters in New York.
All right, up next, we're heading for a short break. You're watching DD India Live. Stay with us for more stories from across the world.
We are looking at new and emerging dimensions in India's most important strategic partnership with the United States.
From Washington's standpoint, India, I would say, is a rising part of our economic portfolio looking globally. It's now one of our 10 largest trading partners. And again, if any company has got offshore R&D and IT, it's probably coming first to places like Bangalore and Hyderabad. What we've seen just in the last couple of years is a shift away from transfer of technology, of selling things to India, and of exercises, which are all great and they're fundamental, but we are now moving actively into interoperability.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Let's get to updates on voting that began on Saturday in Sri Lanka to elect the 9th president in the first election since mass protests sparked by the country's worst ever economic crisis in 2022. A total of 38 candidates are in running, and their fate will be decided by 17 million voters using a preferential voting system. The National Election Commission has said that efforts will be made to ensure that the final results of the election are declared on Sunday, even if the election moves to a second preference count. The leading candidates have expressed confidence in securing victory, but experts suggest that no single candidate is likely to achieve a majority in the first round of counting. Incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe is seeking re-election, facing challenges from SJB candidates Sajid Premadasa and NPP leader Anurag Kumara Dasanayake. All right, Dr. Ahmed Moin Farooqi is joining us from Colombo to get us more. Ahmed, good morning. Tell us, it is a little too early to talk about the voter turnout, but what is it that you're witnessing at the polling booths? What are the preparations that have been put in place to ensure free polling?
Good morning, Preeti, and good morning to all our viewers across the world. Polling has just started in Sri Lanka at 7 a.m. I'm right now at one of the polling centers, and people have started coming in. Gradually, they are coming in into the polling stations to cast their vote. As of now, what Election Commission has said is that the voting will go on till 4:30 p.m. And thereafter the ballot boxes will be shifted to the counting centers. Thereafter the counting will commence. Election Commission has clearly made it very, very clear here that the results will be likely be announced tomorrow itself, even if the voting goes into the second round of voting, second round of counting. But considering all these things, it is something that I would like to add here that around 60,000 security personnel have been deployed at the entire island to ensure that the elections are conducted in a free and fair manner with all the other security arrangements in place. Preeti.
All right, Ahmed, also for the benefit of our viewers, quickly explain us the political contest, the leading candidates, though we've mentioned their names to our viewers, explain us the political contest and also, the general political procedure that is followed in Sri Lanka, given the fact that experts there are believing that no single candidate is likely to achieve a majority in the first round. Get us more.
Preeti, so far 7 executive presidential elections have been held in Sri Lanka. This is the one in which people are going to elect the 9th executive president. Usually what has happened in Sri Lanka is that there are 2 clear frontrunners and there's a direct contest between the 2. However, in this election, what is being witnessed is that it's going to be a 3-cornered or even a 4-cornered fight among the frontrunners, and there doesn't appear that anyone would be able to cross the majority mark of 50% plus 1 votes. Given this scenario, what is being said is that although this the system followed here is that of preferential voting, voters are being urged to even exercise their 2nd and 3rd preferences by marking 1, 2, and 3 on the ballot papers. And once that is done, when the counting goes into the 2nd round, the 2nd and 3rd preferences will be counted as well. Meanwhile, I would like to add here that among the election issues, the key issue had been the economic downturn which the island had witnessed in 2022 and is making efforts to come out of it. Apart from that, the troubles that people have gone through in terms of the difficulty of living over the last 2 years, that has also been a key issue. Corruption in the previous regimes has been another issue. Meanwhile, as I say, as we have already told our viewers, the incumbent president is seeking a re-election while he is challenged by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa and NPP leader Anurakumara Dissanayaka, while the former president Gotabaya Rajapaksa's party has also fielded Namal Rajapaksa from SLPP.
All right, Emma, thank you for joining in with those details. United Nations Security Council met on Friday over the pager blasts in Lebanon targeting Hezbollah. The United Nations denounced the detonation of handheld communication devices used by Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon this week, saying that the attack violated international law and could constitute a war crime. UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, has asked for investigation in the circumstances of these explosions and said that international humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects.
International humanitarian law prohibits the use of booby-trap devices in the form of apparently harmless portable objects which are specifically designed and constructed to contain explosive material. It is a war crime to commit violence intended to spread terror among civilians. I call again for an independent, thorough, and transparent investigation into the circumstances of these explosions. Those who ordered and carried out these attacks must be held to account.
Americans began casting their first in-person votes on Friday in a presidential election less than 7 weeks away. These Democratic supporters in the Midwestern state of Minnesota were out early to make sure that their voice was counted in the tight presidential race. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Virginia can now go to the polls in person, while Minnesota and South Dakota voters can also mail in their ballots. Minnesota is home state of Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. U.S. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris on Friday said that she is trying to get a second opportunity to debate her Republican challenger, Donald Trump, in this year's presidential race.
And in our debate last week, here paid attention to the words, though. The words, right? I'm trying to get another debate. We'll see. But in our debate last week, remember when he said everyone wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned? Well, exactly. I don't know who everyone is either. Because women have been arrested and charged for miscarriages. They didn't want that.
Harris also defended abortion rights and said 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban.
And in our debate last week, paid attention to the words, though, the words, right? I'm trying to get another debate. We'll see. But in our debate last week, remember when he said everyone wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned? Well, exactly. I don't know who everyone is either, because women have been arrested and charged for miscarriages. They didn't want that.
India dominated day 2 of the ongoing first test match against Bangladesh, strengthening their grip in the Chennai test. India finished at 81 runs for 3 wickets at stumps on day 2 in their second innings, taking a lead of 308 runs. Shubman Gill was unbeaten on 33, while Pant was on 12 runs. Earlier in the day, Indian bowlers blew away Bangladesh's top order for a paltry total of 149 runs, with Jasprit Bumrah being the leader of the attack, taking 4 wickets, while Akashdeep Singh and Ravindra Jadeja contributed 2 wickets apiece. Shakib Al Hasan was the highest run scorer for the visitors with 32 runs. On day 1, India managed to put 376 runs, a total built around excellent knocks by Ashwin, who scored 113 in 133 balls, while Jadeja scored 86 runs in 124 balls. That's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Now, this app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.